I'm David from Levika Photography, and today I finally, after a long while, am able to bring you the Nissin I60 Flash review, and I've got two variants of this. One for, which one's which? I forgot. One for Sony and one for Olympus, so our Micro Four Thirds. But today, before we get started, I just want to let you know this is kind of a sponsored video, which is kind of nice. The backdrop behind me is from katebackdrop.com, and they sent this to me and asked me if I would just use it in some of my videos and asked me how I like it, and actually I do like these. These are actually really nice backdrops. They're a little different, so really quick, just let me show you. Are mostly polyester, and they have this polyester backing, so it's not like a traditional muslin backdrop. But what it does have is a cotton polyester weave on the front that makes it almost like a velvet. So it's very smooth, doesn't reflect hardly any light. Mostly though is it's pretty much wrinkle free right out of the bag. So really actually pretty cool. And I use this in a couple of photos that I'll show you guys when I actually put these to use. So anyway, let's get on with this. So the Nissin I60s, these little guys right here, they take place of the aged i40, and this is my Micro Four Thirds i40, and this one broke. Battery door finally gave up the goose, and this was a great flash, simply for how easy it was to use. Just dials. You can't really go wrong with dials, but it didn't have any true wireless capability the way that I wanted it to work with the Air 1 commanders, these commanders right here. This, not so much. Although it looks like it should, but it really never really worked with it. Anyway, what I wanted to get into today was that these flashes are the most powerful, smallest flash that you can get. That's the reason why I like them. It's a lot of punch packed into a very small package. Compared to the i40, you can see size-wise they are very close. They're the same height, just slightly longer, and they're about an inch longer in length, and then this bump makes them slightly bigger. So if that kind of gives you an idea, it's well worth it though, because this is a guide number of 40, these are a guide number of 60. The thing that's good about this setup is that you can control both brands of flashes with one air commander. The downfall is every time that you switch systems, you have to resync those flashes. And it's very easy to do. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so let's go over the flash itself first. That way you know what the different modes are. This is very easy to use. First off is the video light. And this goes from a power of 1 to 9. And change it to SF. This is slave film. And basically this just picks up any optical burst and then shoots whatever you want it to do manually. SD picks up slave digital functions, which also reads TTL, high-speed sync, and stuff like that. And then you have manual mode, and manual is just manual. I mean, this is where you go to change your power, and then if you want to change the zoom of the flash, you have to hold this button down, and right now it's on A, or you can go from 12 millimeter to 200 millimeters. So kind of handy there. Now one thing I wanted to point out really quick is if you look at this flash, this is one for Sony, and notice this one goes a zoom from 24 to 200. So I thought that was kind of interesting, 24 to 200, but yet on the Micro Four Thirds version we're seeing 12 to 100. Let's continue on here. So that's how you change the zoom. To do high-speed sync, you hold the little round button right here over, and that'll turn it on and off. And then if you want to lock these modes, you hold down the button in the center until lock comes on. If you want it to be silent, then you hold that down and that turns the beeper off. But in this case we really don't care. So you have manual, auto, and then you have TTL. Now TTL will only give you a 2-stop maximum or a 2-stop minimum. So I'm surprised that because these are so powerful at 60 meters for a guide number, I mean that's 198 feet, that they would only be 2 stops of TTL, but I'm guessing it's because the Air Commander itself only goes to 2 stops of TTL. So I'm guessing that's why. Anyway, below that you have Group A, B, and C. Okay, on Group A, if you want to change the channel, you have to hold down this button, and then it'll allow you to change the channel all the way up to 8. Alright, so let's go through the Air Commander, the Air 1 Commander settings really quick, just so you understand how they work. This is a pretty easy setup. First you have your modes. You have manual. This changes your zoom. That's what the Z is. So you can select a flash, and in this case I've got Flash A, and you notice if I turn up the dial, then it changes on the flash. If I turn it down, it changes down again. So we're getting beeping confirmation right now. So if I hit mode again, then we're on TTL, or we can be in manual mode and control the power of each flash individually. There, now you can control both flashes at the same time if you want to change both at the same time. Otherwise, you can do them independently from each other. And then high-speed sync, you notice how this light is flashing. That means high-speed sync is turned on. If you hold that down, that turns it off, and you would see it turn off on the camera if it was on the camera. This does not control the video light, only the flashes. On Micro Four Thirds, one thing I noticed, especially on the OMD-EM1 Mark II, is sometimes you don't get high-speed sync flash all the time. And it gets kind of flaky on you. Why does this happen? Just make sure you push the head all the way on to where it's all the way stuffed in there, if you can see that. It needs to be all the way in order to get that thing to work perfectly. Now, one of the problems with Nissin that drives me crazy about this flash is when you tilt the head up, you lose high-speed sync. Unlike the i40, you cannot turn it back on. So if you're shooting an event and you're bouncing like this while shooting your event, you cannot use high-speed sync. Luckily, this camera will get full flash at 250th of a second, no problem, so it's still fine for shooting weddings, but I prefer to be able to bounce off the ceiling. They typically want you to use a front diffuser. Same thing happens if you turn the head this way, you lose high-speed sync. Alright, what I wanted to show you guys is right now this is synced to Micro Four Thirds. So I want to switch this over to Sony. Well, unfortunately, if I just power this on, it doesn't automatically work with Sony. So you have to resync this every single time you switch camera systems. So if I was shooting with my Olympus all day, this is fine, but now I want to shoot with Sony. So now I have to go in and resync these. So this is how fast it works. Just turn everything off, including that, and then turn the flash on first and hold down those 2 buttons, and then on here hold down these 2 buttons, and you'll see that it's beeping, and hopefully they found each other. And yes, they did. Alright, now we'll do the other side. So then hold down these 2, and then these 2 buttons. You'll notice that they're blinking, that they're finding each other. And now we should be good to go. So if I change the power of 1, let me go to mode, we'll make a manual. You can see they're talking to each other just fine now. You can see my shutter speed right now is 1,000th of a second at f2.8, and the flashes seem to be working fine together. I can control the power from the top very easily, so if I want to darken one side, I totally can. And you can see the difference there. So it's kind of nice that the system is cross-compatible, meaning that just like with the Godox system, you can use multiple camera systems and keep using the same flashes, which is really nice. Alright, now you'll notice over here I've got that flash pointed up and that flash pointed up. So on camera or off camera, if I take a shot right here, you'll notice that we still have some high-speed sync going there. So even though it's off camera, if you point the flash heads up the way that they are now, I still have high-speed sync. Alright, so for this test, I turned that one at an angle and this one at an angle and left it flat. And you'll notice when I take the picture, we still have high-speed sync. So you can move the flash heads around when they're off camera, just not when they're on camera. So that's kind of the only thing that drives me crazy about these. Alright, so here's the case. This is how it all fits in there. So the bounce hood goes into that pocket like a so. And this little flap folds over. And then the hot shoe mount slides in the top pocket like that. And then this slides in here. Then the whole thing tightens down to that. Really pretty tidy, and it has a belt loop. Okay, overall, what did I think of these flashes? This is the smallest, most powerful flash that you can possibly get. It has a guide number of 60. Now what that means is that's 198 feet. That is an excellent guide number. Pretty much common with full-size flashes, as you'd expect. Overall, the build quality is excellent. I love the fact that it has a video light. It's very easy to use. The only downside is when it's on the camera body and you flip it up, you lose high-speed sync. That kind of frustrates me. Luckily, when I shoot events, I'm usually using micro four thirds, so on the OMD-EM 1 Mark II or the OMD-EM 5 Mark II, I can shoot up to 320th of a second and still not have an issue. On Sony, though, you're stuck at 1/60th of a second, which is kind of a bummer. On the old i40, you could re-enable high-speed sync once it was flipped up. On these, unfortunately, you cannot. So that is kind of a downfall. One of the great things is they are very cross-compatible. With the Nissin Air 1 Commander, I can use micro four thirds with Sony, and but the only downfall is if you have to switch camera systems, you have to resync the flashes to that system. So if you have flashes from Canon, Nikon, Sony, micro four thirds, or Fuji, they are cross-compatible with each other in high-speed sync and TTL, which is great. The only downside is if you switch camera systems in a photo shoot, you have to resync your flashes. That's kind of a bummer. Nissin's tech support is also really good. They are the only flash manufacturer I have ever actually been able to get on the phone. I don't understand why Photics, you can't call somebody, because for the price of Photics equipment, you should be able to get somebody on the phone. But no, no such luck. Godox, well, you're not really paying for tech support with Godox. You know, their stuff is very inexpensive. But they aren't quite as robust as these. Now, the one thing that does drive me nuts that I didn't really explain in my last DI700A Air 1 Commander review for Sony, when I did that a couple years ago, was this flash, which I am not really a fan of. When this falls asleep with the Commander cannot wake this flash back up. You have to run back over and wake it up. On these, they do actually wake back up, so that's good. They work the way they're supposed to. The system overall is very reliable and very consistent, so I like that. The light spread of Nissin flashes is really good. So anyway, I hope you guys like this review. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, follow me on Instagram. I am now on Patreon if you want to make a slight donation. It couldn't hurt. And other than that, we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.